Okay, let's dive right into this. You know, if you're an entrepreneur, especially in a service business, you have this vision, right? You want to create this perfect, seamless experience for your customers. But then reality hits, and you find yourself running into this wall where the dream just doesn't quite line up with what's actually happening. So why is this so incredibly hard to get right?
Well, it all comes down to what you could call the service paradox. On one hand, the expectation from us, from our customers, is for everything to be fast, friendly, and just flawless. But the reality for the business owner, it's often this messy tangle of glitchy apps, a team that's trying their absolute best but is clearly getting frustrated, and of course, customers who are feeling all of that friction. And it's that gap, right there, that's where so many amazing service businesses stumble. So, what's going on here? What's the missing piece? Honestly, the best way to think about it is to picture your entire business as a three-legged stool. Now, if any one of those legs is wobbly or too short or just not aligned with the others, the whole thing gets unstable. It doesn't matter how great your service idea is, if that underlying structure is off, it's just going to tip over.
So how do we get that stability? How do we build something solid? It all starts with really understanding the three essential legs that hold up the entire foundation of any service business. And it's crucial to stop thinking of these as separate things and start seeing them as the core pillars that hold it all together. So first up, we have technology. This is all the non-human stuff, you know? It's the app your customers are tapping on, it's the internal software your team uses to get things done. It's all the digital plumbing that makes your service actually work and allows it to grow.
The second leg? That's your employees. These are the people who bring your brand to life. They're on the front lines. They're the ones who turn a process into a genuine human experience for every single customer. They're the heart of the operation.
And of course, the third leg is your customers. But here's the key, they are not just passively receiving a service. Their feedback, their behavior, their expectations, they are an active living part of this system. At the end of the day, their satisfaction is the only metric that truly defines success. Okay, now this is where it all comes together. These three legs, technology, employees, and customers, they don't exist in a vacuum. Nope, they are constantly interacting, bumping into each other, influencing one another. And it's right there, in those interactions, that your service quality is either going to be forged into something amazing or completely broken apart by friction.
And you can see this chain reaction so clearly. It can be a downward spiral or an upward one. For example, if you have clunky, confusing software, your team gets frustrated, right? And that frustration, it's going to leak out in how they talk to customers. A bad employee experience almost always leads to a bad customer experience. But the flip side is just as powerful. When you give your team intuitive tools that they actually like using, they feel empowered, they're happier, and they use that great tech to create amazing experiences for customers, which in turn makes the customers love using your app. It's all one big connected loop.
So once you see it as this single, interconnected system, that's the breakthrough. That's the whole game. The big question then becomes, okay, how do I, as the entrepreneur, intentionally build that synergy instead of just letting friction happen? How do I actually engineer a sturdy, balanced stool?
Well, the path to getting this right really boils down to 4 clear steps. First, you've got to align your technology with real human needs. That means for your employees and your customers. Second, empower your people. And that's not just about giving them good tools, it's about giving them your trust. And third, you have to build a real system for customer feedback, one where you actually listen and act on what you're hearing. And when you nail those first 3 things, that's when the magic happens. You unlock the 4th step. You create a virtuous cycle. This is the promised land. It's this beautiful positive feedback loop where great tech helps your awesome team make customers super happy. And those happy, loyal customers, they feel more investment back into better tech and more support for your team, which makes everything even better. It just keeps getting stronger.
Look, this isn't about finding a one-time solution. This is about creating a blueprint for a business that can actually last. The real art, the real skill of the entrepreneur is in that continuous process of balancing. Your tech, your customers' needs, your team, they're all going to change. They're always evolving. Your job is to be the one who's constantly fine-tuning and keeping everything in harmony.
Which brings us to probably the single most important takeaway from all of this. It's this idea right here. Great service is not a feature, but a perfectly balanced system. So you have to stop thinking about your app, your staff, and your customers as separate items on a to-do list. Your real job as a founder is to be the architect of the dynamic, living system that connects all 3.
And that leaves us with a final thought, something to really chew on. We're seeing powerful new technologies like AI and automation changing everything about service. And as they become more and more integrated, the very nature of these interactions is going to shift dramatically. So the question for you to think about is, which leg of this stool, the technology, the employees, or the customers, is going to be the absolute hardest and maybe the most important to keep in balance in the future? Definitely something to think about.